Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. I'm your host, Joe Fox, the president at Growave. Today I'm joined by my really good friend, Dalyn Beck. I've known Dalyn for quite a while, actually, where she was working at previously with agency side. We've worked together, and then also now within Dapper Moose, we've worked together and really obviously know Mike quite well. So I'm super excited for this episode. I think particularly audience agency owners who are not feeling like they're doing what they should on a sales front. You're going to get a hell of a lot of value from this episode. Dalyn is an absolute expert with everything to do with sales, with building pipeline, with finding your ICP, all of those sorts of things. So we're going to dive into all of that. So I'm super excited. So Dalyn, thank you so much for coming on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And that was a very lovely introduction. So I appreciate it.
You you deserve it and more. No, honestly, I think it's so impressive. Like, I know from, speaking to Eldar and some of the work that he's done with you and everything, he's just been super impressed. And a lot of agencies in our network, I believe, already work with you or have worked with you. So I think the audience today is going to get a lot of value. So I'm super excited. Do you want to talk a little bit, sort of like about your background, how you got to where you are now? I think I always love talking to founders and sort of finding out what was the main reason they started doing what they're doing, and how they fell into that. So yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Absolutely. If you would have told me 11 years ago when I entered into this tech world that I would be where I'm at today, I would have said there's absolutely no way. I moved to Austin on a whim and needed a job and was quite literally walking around with resumes, just walking into offices. And I landed at ShipStation, which at the time was this teeny tiny little company, also now known as Octane, which we're all very familiar with.
Yeah.
Um, so I started at the very bottom, like customer service, answering chats, worked my way into account management, then sales, then all the way up to enterprise sales. And I was there for quite a while and sort of just fell in love with the old school way of doing sales. And from there, I went to Shopify and then was there for a couple of years selling Shopify Plus and POS. And then went, as you know, went to the agency
Yeah.
side of things. I'll leave out all the details of like kind of how we ended up there. But yeah, amazing opportunity to go to the agency side. And what it taught me was that the best people in agencies understand the sales or the brand that they're trying to work with from all three lenses, from the tech partner side, from the platform side, and then of course, like how do we build and grow this brand from the agency side. So that's sort of about me. I feel that it has elevated my ability to help agencies in particular by understanding the three different types of lenses and how that all works well, and basically what's best for the brand at the end of the day. So yeah, that led me to doing that kind of over and over again for a few agencies. And then I've known Mike, my business partner and the founder of Dapper Moose, since was at Shopify. And I was in his office every single day because he was in charge of all things delivery, strategy, engineering. And I was trying to sell everything I possibly could touch and run a sales team at the same time. And I was in his office, whether he liked it or not, probably, and was begging, like, how do we make this profitable for your team? Like, how do we go back and forth? And, if I sold everything, was the team set up to deliver on it? And if I didn't sell anything, how do we avoid getting rid of great talent? And so we basically after a while just concluded, hey, we can do this across the board for agencies at scale rather than one at a time. And so he actually stepped out and developed Dapper Moose. And then about a year later, I joined, and it's been rocking ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen both of you just go from strength to strength, and I always hear such positive feedback. And I think it's so perfect because, to your point, it's two super different skill sets. It's like the yin to the yang. And I think you both complement each other incredibly well. And I think both sides of that equation that Mike and you address, are what agencies really need. And I really love that ability for you to be able to look through things from the lens of like SaaS, agency, platform. Like that's such a powerhouse combination and so unique. And I think being able to provide those insights to agencies, to SaaS, to really help drive sales is critical and is key. So I really, really, I mean, what a career. That's amazing. And I think it shines through in the work that you and Mike are doing now. I want to kind of stay on this path a little bit while we're here around Shopify. Like it is such a heavy ecosystem. I'm sure a lot of your I know a lot, well, I know for a fact a lot of your agencies are really heavily embedded in that ecosystem. Us from a SaaS perspective, we're in that ecosystem. I know some of the other SaaS you work with are as well. What have you seen as the biggest changes from going from when you were, heavily, I know they still are heavily focused on POS and Plus, but what are the biggest changes you've kind of seen happen or the biggest shifts happen in the Shopify ecosystem since you went in a different direction?
Yeah, so it's something that I get asked a ton by agencies, how do we stand out to Shopify? And two things that have changed since I was there. Number one, there's more agencies in the space than there ever has been. And then
Yeah.
number two is that Shopify owns the majority of brands in the space that the agencies are trying to go after. So when you have less leads than before and more competition than ever, there's this huge gap of, times are tough, right? We got to stand
Yes.
out. And so what's changed is that you have to do co-selling, co-marketing, and get really creative with the events that you're going to go to. And it needs to be specific to the agency, because gone are the days that you're able to just say, I'm a Shopify dev agency and I can help anybody
Yeah.
in commerce. Because while I believe that that is absolutely true, it's not going to stand out to brands that are constantly being bombarded by agencies. And it's not going to stand out to Shopify, who everyone in the world wants to partner with more than ever. So, what you have to do is niche down, right? What industry, what revenue model, who at the company is going to be the best point of contact for you, because it can no longer just be like the ecom manager, right? It needs to probably be the COO mixed with even like a product manager, So I think what's changed is definitely knowing your ICP inside and out. And I always say ICPs can change, right? So if you find that you're
Yes.
down one lane, you can absolutely change. But when I was there, POS was relatively new, capital had just been kicked off. We were right in the start of COVID. So everybody who was selling candles in their garage all of a sudden needed to be online. So it was
Yep.
drinking from a fire hose, which is much different than it is today. And I think also with how innovative Shopify is, they're able to do a lot of self-serve things themselves without needing partners. And so the other thing that I tell partners is, how do you either, one, people buy people, not your service or your product, right? So how do you stand
Yep.
from a relationship standpoint and caring more than a software by itself will? And then the second thing is knowing that brand's problems and how to solve for them inside and out. And then sharing that with Shopify and going through co-selling, co-marketing, get in touch with MSMs, AEs. What are you hearing? What's on your desk that you wish somebody would take off of your desk? And that's what the agency should take over. And that's what I see as the biggest change and opportunity for the future of working in the Shopify ecosystem.
I absolutely love that. So many incredible insights there. Like, this is gold for any of our agency partners watching. Please listen to this because this is gold. I have these conversations myself, Dalen, with like, coming from having an agency myself.
Mm-hmm.
That was when we really hit our stride in Australia, is when we separated ourselves from being everything and everything to anyone and just going specifically into robust, long-lasting Australian brands that were in the food service industry. And that was quite wide-ranging, but some of the biggest brands in Australia were that. And I couldn't agree more. It's like that, even that mindset shift that you have when you niche to your ICP. starts opening up the floodgates for sales. Like I really think that's a big part of it. It's not certainly not the only part, and I know you have an incredible methodology on that, but I think that founder and sales mind shift of we're going to go after everything and be everything to everyone. And there's still surprisingly some big agencies that are like that, and I think they've just winged it and gotten there by luck. But where everything is heading now with tools like Lovable and all of these things, you are 1,000% right. It's like if you are not standing out in a particular niche, you don't know that industry's niche's problems inside and out when it comes to your craft. Unfortunately, I think you're just going to get left behind. And I think that's why I'm so grateful that there are people such as yourself and Mike out there at Dapper Moose who are offering this help to agencies to kind of get them through this. Because as well as I know that a lot of agencies come to you when they are in a good position and they are winning and they are like, how do we future proof this? I also know and I also imagine that there would be some agencies that are like, hey, we've been really successful, but we're now on a down curve and we need help. Like we need to fix this area. And that's where you and, Mike come in and shine. So very great. I'm sure I speak for the whole community when I say super grateful for you guys for doing that because, we all love to see agencies do well. And, Rachel's network is an incredibly good example of that. All of us who are in that network, whether we be SaaS agency platform, advisor, all of those sorts of things, we all help each other. So makes a lot of sense. There's so many things from that I want to kind of unpack and jump on. One of the really key ones we obviously just spoke about in terms of niching, but I really want to just kind of jump on quickly around what Shopify's doing in terms of their kind of agency ecosystem, co-marketing, all of those sorts of things. If you're an agency that is, already niched, doing incredible work, but you're just not getting that kind of co-marketing or that support, what would be your first recommendations to kind of gather that support and start doing some co-marketing and leveraging that?
So, assuming I'm already in the Shopify partner ecosystem, I would be meeting with my partner manager, and I, as the agency, would try to take as much legwork away from Shopify as possible, which is reverse way of thinking that I see present day. Agencies, I think, look to Shopify to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and then they get their reward. Again, you want to stand out. So, what I would do is I would use tools, and I have a plethora that I would suggest using, but the easiest thing is to plug your ICP into, or what you think your ICP is going to be, into a program and have that spit out a lead list essentially. And I would take that to Shopify and I would say, I'm going to scrub this list. I'm going to find the best contacts. I'm going to create the messaging. I'm going to create the sequence/cadence. And it's going to, I'm going to hit them on LinkedIn. I'm going to call them. I'm going to email them, just old school sales,
Yep.
and then ask Shopify, what can you do to help enable me and help also meet me? If I get somebody on the phone, are you going to be there? Right. And that's going to pique their interest because they're going to go, yeah, we're struggling to get leads. So if you're able to get one and bring us in, then the competition's been pushed out. Like they're not going to introduce that lead to another agency. Right. But it's a lot of legwork on the agency. And I understand that. And I think that, you can either use AI, you can hire a BDR, you yourself as a founder. I think it's a worthy exercise, even if you
Yes.
get one or two leads. And that's the other biggest thing, right? I think it's taking the mindset from agencies of, hey, I entered into a partnership with Shopify or another platform for that matter, and
Yep.
saying, I want to go from 5 to 10 million, or I want to go from 2 to 5 million a year. It's not going to happen unless you have some big staff doing a lot of really cool things.
Yeah.
But what I think it's more so is explaining to Shopify, hey, I'm not looking for you to land me 5 deals a week. Like that's what Shopify needs. Shopify needs 5 deals a week. An agency needs 1 to 2 super solid long-term clients to
Yeah.
land a month. And
Yeah.
that's how they get that incredible amount of growth.
I love the premise that we just touched on then, because I feel like I hear this all the time from new agencies, and they're like, I want thousands of leads, I want hundreds of leads. And it's like, well, one, I can almost guarantee you do not have the infrastructure set up to manage that. If all of those leads turned around and said yes tomorrow, how would you service that business? You couldn't. Second of all, it's like, quality over quantity, right? Like exactly to your point. It's like one to two really solid, leads that are going to convert, that are within your niche, that you've got enough evidence to back up that you can do a really good job for, as opposed to just trying to get the entire world. And I think all of this comes back to a lot of niching, and I really love that you lead with that. I think that's really powerful. And I think to the audience who are watching, who, there is a lot of uncertainty just at the moment. There's also a lot of buzz. There's also all this stuff around AI is coming for all of our jobs, whether you're SaaS or agency. But I think, I really encourage you, if you're watching this and you're sitting there and you're like, these sound like amazing ideas, but I don't have the time, or these sound like amazing ideas and I need to implement them, but I don't have the resource. Like, I really encourage you to reach out to Dapper Moose, reach out to Dalyn on LinkedIn, or I'll make sure all of those links are in the show notes. But getting help now is really important. Getting help 2 years ago was important. Getting help 3 to 4 years ago wasn't as important, because everyone was just making crazy money and crazy sales, and everything was happening because of COVID. But that has settled down now, and it's a different world and a different economy, and the ecosystem, quite frankly, is getting quite crowded. So you need to make sure that you have the right advocates, the right advisors in your corner. So I stress this. I want to see everyone succeed and do well. But if you do not have the right people in your corner, the simple fact is you're not going to do well. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of agencies that don't make it through this growth period, when all of these tools are coming through and automating a lot of the processes that agencies were getting paid for by agencies. So I'm going to finish that rant on, please make sure you check out the check out the links. But I think it's more important than ever. It is changing by the day. There's more agencies popping up now more than ever. There's more SaaS tools too that are popping up more than ever, that are doing a lot of what the agencies were getting paid to do. And I think that's something that hasn't been spoken about enough. So yeah, I think it's really important that agencies have got the right advisors in their corner. Um, Dalyn, on that note, what is the typical? So I don't want you to give away the secret sauce. You've already given a lot of incredibly valuable information, but what does it look like? Say, for example, today, one of our agencies who's watching this, or an agency owner who's watching this, it's like, oh, I love all of this. Sounds like I need Dalyn and Dapper Moose in my corner, and Mike. Um, what is the kind of like process, if they reach out and contact you and say, hey, really like what you spoke about on the podcast, we need some help. What does the kind of like process look like from there?
It's a great question. So,
High level.
sure, two types of clients. Either the client that knows what they're missing, like we don't have lead generation strategy, we don't have a partner program strategy. Our delivery team, misses the mark. For if they know what their issues are, then we can pretty much have a conversation, put together a proposal that's niche for them. As much as I pitch niching to agencies, we also have to niche. We do bespoke modeling for every agency.
Yep.
So if they know what their issues are, they at least have an idea. We can put together a 3 to 6 month roadmap pretty much immediately. However, I would definitely say that the majority of agencies go, I just know I want to grow, but I'm in analysis paralysis and I don't know where to start. In that
Yeah.
case, Mike and I do a full business audit. It typically takes, it can take 2 weeks, it can take a month. It really just depends on how big they are and where they're at with all of their systems and things. So
Yep.
for the audit, right, then we go back and we put together the long-term plan. But the audit really sometimes opens up channels that they don't even know that they should be paying attention to. So yeah, that's how we would get started.
I love that. I love that. And then I guess the other thing from from that perspective is it's like, do you get as hand like you can get as hands on as they want you to be in that process, right? So if they're like, look, I absolutely love everything that you and Mike have put together, but I don't have the resource, the time, because we all know that agency founders and owners are usually wearing 500 hats, right? So they a lot of the time don't have that time. Um, but and I know Rachel, preaches about this a lot about being able to work on the business, not in the business, etc. But if a agency's kind of in that transition period, you guys can get quite hands-on with that, and that's the reason for the bespoke sort of proposals and approach. Is that correct?
It is correct. I want to, we can't come in and sell for like I can't come in
No, no, of course.
for the
Yeah,
agency because
yeah,
that would be a little unfair. But what we can do is help say, okay, you don't have time to do partner, you don't have time to do sales, you don't have time to oversee every single project and account manage and delivery team, right? There's no way. So what we can do is we can look internally and see who can we place into some of those seats, or can do we need to help you hire, even fractionally hire or part-time hire, virtual assistant hire, like what do we need to do to get these things accomplished? And as those tactics start to grow the business, now we can stay on and really help you go out and find like that killer AE or a killer partner manager. Maybe you need a head of delivery, right? Something like that. Then we can help stay on and find the right person for that specific agency. And I keep saying that specific agency because, again, if I came up with the secret of how every agency could grow, then everyone's going to do it. And guess what? We're right back to where we are today.
yeah,
But I'm really
yeah,
particular about every agency has to approach the market slightly differently. Competition is good, but
yeah.
if we could narrow down from 3,000 in our competition to 30, you're already in a better place. So that's why it's good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I love that approach. And I think I really wanted that explanation for the audience because I think still sometimes that analysis paralysis, right? Like, I know I need to do this, but I don't have time to do this. And it's like, I think understanding that if you don't fix those things and sort those things out, they don't go away. They just become a much bigger problem later on. And sometimes, unfortunately, too big of a problem to deal with after the fact. So, I really appreciate you kind of like explaining that methodology and how involved you can get if required, or it's just a hey, we can come in and fix this particular issue that you're having with our expertise. So I really like that. Um, Dalyn, the other thing I kind of want to dive into a little bit is just I like getting future predictions. And I think because you're so close to the pulse of what's happening with agency, what's happening, kind of even on the SaaS side and on the platform side, I'd love to just get a couple of like, or one major key prediction that you have for what's going to happen over the next 12 months in the ecosystem because I love doing part twos. We haven't done we film our first part two in I think it's in December, but I like sort of being able to look back at those predictions and everything like that. So when we do a part two, which I'd love to have you on and maybe have Mike on as well,
Sure.
I think it'd be cool to have both of you on at the same time and bounce a few things. But what are your kind of predictions for the Shopify ecosystem from an agency perspective, let's say in the next 12 months? Like, do you see a lot of consolidation happening? Do you think people are going to, I know we wishful thinking, we hope people niche a little bit more and really stay in their lanes, but what do you think is going to happen in general?
I think in general, before, even a little bit now, but it's getting slimmer and slimmer. And I think it's going to be gone in the next 12 months is the idea of, do I need in-house, freelancer, or an agency? I think we're going to see
Mm,
go for brand side. It's either going to be in-house or agency. I think that freelancer, like one time, one off project, that they're looking to hire somebody for, I think that's going to be gone, which is a great thing for agencies to capitalize on. I
Yes.
also think automation now more than ever is going to be super important on the agency side, because that's going to get rid of the idea, like they have to bring, if they want to bring in somebody internally, for example, that's a 6 month hire. They're going to have to teach that person everything about Shopify, about all the different things it can do. And just when they get up to speed, it's probably going to change again. Whereas agencies have the advantage of working inside of the platform and with so many brands all the time that they're going to be ahead of that curve. And oftentimes, like salary versus what an agency charges is better to go with the agency, is what I tell brands, until you're at a certain
Yes.
point. Nike probably has 12 agencies and
Yeah.
100 internal people, so not that, but most brands, right, are going to look to an agency to cover a lot of ground for their business.
Yeah.
What I think is going to happen is that if you're not already doing that, and or you're not already automating your process, I don't know that you're going to be able to enter the space, is my prediction.
Mm.
So
Yes.
these one-off founders, they're just going to be out of their league with an agency that's 20 people that is already niched, already doing the automated workflows, and taking on a bundle of work for the brand rather than just like this one thing. And then what I mean by automation is like have tools do all the things possible that they can do, have them do your outbound, have them go back and forth with your design team, right? Um, Even as slim as like use ChatGPT, like I don't, just use some form of automation. In the sales side, there's a ton of tools that you can collectively put together that
Yeah.
will do this for you. But I think that that's how you're going to stand out, because if you're not, you're just going to be spinning your wheels on things that people are able to do in 20 minutes. So my prediction is that I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation, is my guess.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, to that point, obviously super exciting for agencies who are niched, who are experts, who are, doing the automation and all of those sorts of things. But from that freelance perspective, I think that's an exciting opportunity for agencies also to pick up some really good talent, like really good talent.
Mhm.
Like, because some of the, like, perfect example, I've got a friend's business who I've done some advisory stuff for of late. And, we were looking at video production, and I don't think AI video is quite there yet. I think, that's probably a good year away that it would be there. But what we found is the talent, or the, I guess, portfolio of freelance versus big agency, video agency, was very on par, but the cost was substantially different. And so part of me is thinking, to that point you made, it's like there's some really, really good freelance talent that I think, if agencies can assure some of the cultural benefits, like some of the cultural positivities and some of the freedom that freelancers really love, they're going to get some amazing talent, like amazing talent. So I think if you're in an agency at the moment that is growing and you're looking actively for talent, I think it's a good time. That's just my prediction as well.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I think pricing, I haven't really wrapped my head fully around this transparently, but I think pricing is going to look a little different too, because I
Mm,
think with AI um, being so top of mind for folks, I think you're going to see Shopify projects in particular able to be pushed out super quickly, unless there's this big complex, thing that has to be done that outside of the Shopify world. So I think you're going to be competing with, again, the AI agencies or the people that are able to like turn and burn these projects out really, really quickly. And so I haven't fully, like I said, wrapped my head around how to fully help agencies figure that one out, but it's top of mind and something that I'm hoping I have an answer for very quickly.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that, I mean, those are some really good like two very, very good points we can chat about on the follow-up, is like, what's the adjustment we've seen in pricing models, and have we seen the freelancer kind of market be swallowed up a little bit by both in-house and by agency. So I'm going to leave that as our follow-up points. I think there's some really good ones. Look, we could chat forever. I know that for a fact because I feel like we always do when we catch up in person. But thank you so much, Dalyn. I've got one last question because, to that point, we all travel a lot. We all see each other on the road and different conferences, and we touched on it earlier about all of the events in our space. Um, I always like to ask guests, what is something, and you can't say a person, what is the one thing you can't travel without?
Oh, well, one thing I can't travel without, my calendar, number one. Um,
Yeah,
no matter where I am, airport, as soon as I land, in the hotel, whatever. I mean, I have to have coffee. Anybody who knows me knows that I am a complete addict to caffeine, coffee in particular. So both of those, my calendar, which leads my life fully because I'm crazy,
yeah.
overly booked and organized. And two, is that caffeine to keep me going to be able to do it.
Absolutely. No, look, two very good ones. I think that those are definitely some that are coffee for me is just not I don't even mention it because it's a must-have. Like I'm such a coffee snob, and that was one of the things that I was like very fearful of when I moved to the US because I'd been to the US, half a dozen, no, probably a dozen times. And every time, I'll be honest, like I'd find like one good coffee shop out of probably like six. But I must say, post COVID, I think the quality of coffee has gone up a lot. So I feel like America is catching up to Australia on the coffee front. I've probably got some Australian friends that'll slap me for saying that, but I truly think that the US is catching up on that front, which is awesome and exciting. So I agree on that one. Coffee and calendar, that's a great one.
They go hand
Um,
in hand.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, Dalen, thank you so much for coming on board. I feel like you gave so many really, really good, not only like actionable points, but a lot of inspiration and a lot of hope for agencies that are watching. Once again, I encourage agencies to click the links below. I'll make sure that Dalen's LinkedIn, I'll make sure that Dapper Moose is there. I'll even put Mike's LinkedIn so that people can reach out and sort of get in contact because I think that's more important than ever, especially with these changes and predictions that we're talking about. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on board. I love the work you do. I love the fact that you're helping, agencies thrive and survive and grow. And I think it's very important what you do for the ecosystem and the community. So thank you for coming on board. Thank you for being a good friend. And I look forward to doing our part two sometime soon in the near future with Mike.
Yeah, he's gonna love it. He was, I think, jealous that he wasn't on for today. Not jealous. He has lots of other things to do, but
Awesome.
yeah, we'd love to do a part two. And thank you, Joe, for thinking of me and yeah, for having me and picking my brain. And I feel like we touched like just the tip of an iceberg of all the things that we could talk about. But yeah, I look forward to speaking to whomever in the community is of interest. And yeah, I hope everybody has a lovely rest of the year.
Thank you so much, Dalen. Really appreciate it. And audience, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. Please, 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 I encourage you to check out Dapper Moose Consulting. Link is below. Please reach out and connect with Dalen on LinkedIn. If you want to have a confidential chat or just sort of get the ball rolling on some of their services, highly encourage you to do it. I think I can 100% recommend Dalyn and Dapper Moose. I don't always give my 100% recommendation, but I do know confidentially some agencies who've worked with them. Transparently, Elder has been working with Dalyn a bit, trying to sharpen up his sales skills, but he already has them. But yeah, no, I highly recommend. I think there's a lot of value there. And, further to the point of what we discussed, we want to see everyone do well in this ecosystem. So if you're having concerns, you're having issues around process, sales, automation, tools on generating more leads, how you can be leveraging your partner network more, please, please, please reach out and check out the links below. But thank you again for tuning into the episode. If there's any guests that you want to see, please leave your comments below. Thank you for supporting the show, and I'll see you again soon.